Welcome everyone, thank you for clicking and joining for this video. Today we're going to look into the equipment. Why do certain tanks need a rammer? Why do certain tanks need hardening? Why do certain roles need a specific equipment and so on? And the goal of this video is not to just show you, hey, this tank needs this tank needs that. We will do that in reviews videos. If you're interested, there are some on my channel already. But what I want you to understand is try to learn why people do choose certain equipments over others. Maybe you're new, maybe you never cared too much and you just copy it, but you're interested in learning. This is a small guide. It's not going to be the most thorough and more specific for everything. Someday you will end up having your own customized stuff that works best for you, because at the end of the day in this game it's great also because it's personal. Some tank can work for you, some tank can work for another. Some people will say this tank is amazing, some people will say this tank sucks. And why is that? Because we all have taste, we all have personal experiences, and yeah, we maybe follow the wrong guide, we made the wrong equipment, and we have a bad opinion on something. So it's always good to know and learn in order to avoid having confusion. Let's jump into it. So we're jumping to the meat, guys. This is the real meat of this beautiful video. So let's take the VZ55, right? I don't have it unlocked and it's a particular tank. So I went on skills website, skill4ltu.eu, and I searched for VZ55. It's a bit simple to check the stats on the site instead of from the game, but you can check in game, no problem. You can do the same thing. So we go to the specs. Before we jump into these categories that you're seeing on your left side, I want to mention that what is your priority when you want to build a tank? Your priority is improve the tank where it needs to be improved, where it really is bad. You do not want to do too much for a tank that already has very good reload. So if you're having like the best reload in game already and you have very good DPM, you can actually give up on the part where you increase the reload if your tank really sucks on everything else. As an example, I don't know, you have the K91, for example, reloads at 5 seconds and something. If you put a rammer, you get up to 4 seconds and a bit, which increases your DPM a lot. But that gun is very inaccurate for my experience on K91 tier 10 medium Russian. So what I did, I thought about removing the gun rammer to increase the accuracy, because you move a lot when you shoot. I put vertical step, for example, and I needed a turbo because it's sluggish and it's a big tank and you want to make sure you go back and cover ASAP. That's just a small example. What I want you to understand is that when you go build a tank, you want to build to improve the stats where it really is bad. So that's what you would need to think about before you jumping into the sections of the imaginary categories, as I call them. Why am I calling them imaginary? Because these are categories that you want to think about when you build a tank. It's not like you go on this site and you see them directly separated as I'm mentioning, but you can group them up like this, and I think it will help you overall when you build a tank. Let's take a look at the first little stats I would check right away. Aim time. Aiming time is 3 seconds. These 3 seconds is already worrying and it's not looking too good. 3 seconds is a lot of time to aim, and it's gonna really put at risk your accuracy. Let's check the dispersion instead. The dispersion at 100 meters is 0.38. This is not a good dispersion for long range or medium range. It's definitely on the bad side. 0.38. So this already means that the circle is too big. When you see the gun dispersion, this means how big your circle is. Yes, from 0.31, 0.32, 0.30 is acceptable to even snipe, but 0.38 is not good. For example, on mid range already you're compromised. What did we learn already? We saw aiming time 3 seconds and we saw 0.38. So very inaccurate gun, which you also need to wait a lot of time to wait for that barely accurate gun, right? So what does this mean? So at this point I'm thinking, what would I do to remove the aiming time and also the dispersion, but do it in one slot? Because I know I would need something else, right? With these stats and the fact that you shoot one round, your circle already becomes even bigger, because after you fire your shot, your circle does not remain the same. You saw that when you shoot, it becomes bigger, and then it tries to become back smaller, right? But the vertical stab helps after firing too. So this is a very key item for this tank. I already see that this is a must-have for me. Not only aiming time is bad, which the vertical stab helps also this, because if you wait to 280 and you shoot, that dispersion removal helps compensate for that 0.20 that you did not wait for the aim. So you can shoot a bit earlier than the 3 seconds, even though it's not recommended, obviously. And dispersion also gets removed overall for the circle size. So instead of, imagine this is the circle of your crosshair and this is the middle, right? Half of the circle, middle. Your RNG can bring your shot here, right? But if you have the verse tab, your shot can go a bit closer to the mid. That's what it means. Basically, it compensates a bit, and it doesn't necessarily go with, it goes with 20% less in accuracy. Basically, it just helps a lot with accuracy. I already understood that we need the vertical stab. Okay, what else could it need, this tank, right? Because this will not be enough. This will not be enough. Another thing that could be very good is this. Look, accuracy improvement system experimental, which does both. Look, aiming circle size, which means this reduces. So aiming circle size means this becomes less. It would become like 0.35 or something. Aiming speed, it gives me also aiming speed. So 5% aiming speed, this would increase also. This is a second item that I would consider for my tank in the back of my mind. What other equipment can help with this? Considering I also have 2 shells and the gun with magazine, as we said in the basic restrictions, cannot use the rammer, you can use the vents because of your crew efficiency bonus. So this, what it would do, look, when you choose the ventilation, it improves aiming time, so from 260 to 254, and 0.32 from 0.33. So look, we found another item that does the same, correct? So this would be a really good candidate. Let me mount this. I'm on ELC, but it doesn't matter. This, for example, would be a good candidate for my tank, right? Because we looked at this, but we only looked at one section and the section under. Basically we can already understand what could help this tank become better, and why did other streamers or big players, boy oh boy, these professionals, why did they choose that? Because of this. Reload, I already went through, I already rushed through it with the vents, but if it's a single fire rammer, if it's reload fast, maybe vents instead. In our case, we do not have a gun with single fire. We're using the 2 shells one, so it means we cannot use rammer, correct? And we would need the vents. If, for example, you have a tank that you know it's not missing anything else and it only needs DPM, so it needs faster reload to just go in and bam 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 slam everyone, you can even go both. You can even go vents and rammer. But in our case, it doesn't apply because we do not have a gun that accepts rammer, right? The next category I would look at is view range and camo. In this situation, this can be ignored because you are not going to care. You are not going to be a medium that could spot. You are not going to be a light tank. So this category, when you play heavy and you're not super try-harding to just only snipe, which I rarely recommend. I don't think there's a heavy that should only snipe fully. Just keep in mind, this is still a category you want to keep in mind. We will go through it with another example after. For now, we chose VZ and we go through what's relevant. Top speed, power and weight. This is something that applies also for our VZ. Why? Because we want to be fast enough to change position. We want to be able to climb the hills when we play hold down and take the shots with the gun depression that we have, and we want to know if we're fast enough for that. For example, has a top speed of 50 kilometers per hour, which is decent. So 50 kilometers per hour is decent for a heavy tank. I do not see a problem for this, right? I don't see like I need it. Reverse speed is not the best. I instantly can think if the turbo is something I would need on my PZ. Not something I would consider right away. This definitely, I would not consider it right away. Why? Because the stats I saw are really good. So for now, this would come out of my list. What would I think then after? If this is not needed, is the dispersion removal needed together with engine power? So let's say if this VZ was a bit slower, so it didn't have 50, it had like 35 or 36, and you feel a bit slow for a tank that is not the most armored tank in World of Tanks at tier 10. You don't have the best HP, and you also, right? So you will need to be more careful with your hit points and when you take your shots, and you will need speed for that, right? Bam, 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 back and forth. If you would be, let's say, 36 here, then you would need a bit of more boost, you could go for the experimental turbo. Experimental turbo becomes great when you need a bit of power, not like the most power, because the most power you get with the bounty engine power 12%, or improved, which you get from onslaught 12.5 engine power. It's insane. 6 kilometers per hour, top forward speed, 4 reverse speed. It's insane. You would need moderate speed with this, so you would go to level 3, 8% engine power. But what this does, it has also increases the speed of turret traverse speed, gun traverse speed, full traverse speed, and dispersion during vehicle. So it does -5 of what the vertical stab does. These two would stack up for the dispersion. If you look here, look, this would be a good thing for this tank, but I don't need the turbo. I really don't need. So instead of this, I can give it up and go, as I said, for this, for vents, or for even this. Make sense all the way until here? I hope it's starting to make sense for you. So the next category that you have to keep in mind when you are looking at building or before building a tank is armor and HP. Do I have enough armor? Do I have enough HP? 2100, and turret armor is 300. Decent armor, cool armor, paper. At this point, I'm considering, will I go straight up and fight these tier 11s, Shakerate with 30,000 million HP? Will I want to go trade with him? Then you will need the hardening. What this does, increases your HP. What else does this do? Is increases the suspension durability and repair speed. This tank might need it. Why? Let me explain to you. So you have 2 shells loaded and you want to be the guy that shows up, unloads and hides back again. If you want to do that and not be in danger, you need hardening if you're gonna be in front. Why? Because if you get tracked, you get freaking wrecked. And you also can take one for the team with this instead. Let's take this as an example. I'm on Super Conqueror and I don't have the hardening. 2300 with 8%, it would become 2560 instead of 23. So you can even hover here to see 190 more. This is great, right? Because we need the HP on the VZ, and it can help us if we want to take more trades and be more aggressive. If instead you're going to play a bit more support and you feel like you're going to do better by sitting more in the back, which you can ignore it and use one of the equipments we mentioned above. To conclude with the VZ, one config, imagine if this was the VZ. I don't have the tank, so I cannot show you, but I would go for vents, vertical stab, improved aiming system, or if I don't want to do that and I want to be even more accurate and I want to rely more on my accuracy, I would go this and it would become the most accurate you can, or I would go this based on my playstyle. So if I want to play more aggressive, go more in front, take more for the team and risk less because you pick more on the hold down and you are going more in front, right? So you're gonna risk to get hit more, you would choose the hardening instead. You could give up anything you want here between vents and this could also be a setup, for example, for my VZ. I checked all this stuff by myself and I am a bit confident already of how this tank looks. There's an extra step we can take, guys. On skill for LTU, which is a great index page of his where you can check equipment and even what community does and so on. Great site, I recommend you. You can even see recommendations and look around. Look at this. I did not check before we went into the video, and my point is being proven right now. So let's take a look at what the best players do, right? These are between the best players that we know. Look at skills main configuration recommendation. It matches exactly what we just discussed. Improved ventilation, improved aiming, and vertical stab. Skill think alike. Great minds think alike, they say. Another thing over here, look what else he recommended. Survival improvement suit with the mobility system. As I mentioned, the dispersion removal is mainly the reason, and also that extra boost on the mobility. I did not have it for this example and it costs to unmount it. Basically what this does is what the hardening does. This is just better, but you get less HP. You get 7% at level 2, for example. So you need at least level 2 to be close. This has the internal module durability, which means probably skill notice that it's getting ammo racked or engine gets damaged a lot or something like that, which helps with that. So when you see this, you can use this or that. If you have them, use this. If you don't have them, use this. But look at the other configurations. Look, German decided to go for a turbo and a vertical stab and vent. You can see already that more or less the guns are, yeah. Des Daki recommends, look, vents, vertical stab, hardening. There are multiple that rotate around the 3 ones I mentioned. This was without checking. What is the difference between this and this and this and that? Nothing. Their experience and their way of playing and what worked best for them. The way they take their shots, if they stand still when they shoot, if they move more, if they want to switch spots fast, if they go to medium line and then come back, you maybe need the full turbo. There's people that like different styles. What matters is you need to understand why this person would choose this over this. What I'm thinking here is, for example, Daki would use this in the cities and would use this in the open, I guess, because he would want to be more mobile and change positions, take shots. Well, this one would be only close range, right? If you're on Himmelsdorf, you're gonna go this. You're not gonna need to change the side of the map on Himmelsdorf much. It's a small map, for example. It's just situational. And you can even make 2 configurations as they do, and it works great either way. But it was just an example to show you why I separate in this category. But this is not all, guys. We live in 2025 and it's an amazing time to be alive, because we have a lot of informations, access to a lot of stuff that people did not have before. So let's use that. This website, Tomato GG, which I also recommend. If you go to all tanks, we search VZ, we go to VZ. We have a very, very interesting section on here. Over here, we have a few tabs, and you can see tab of DPG, tab of win rate, tab of player win rate, and you even lower here, you have popular setups and average win rate with players using this setup. You can also make yourself an idea of what the setups look like in other hands. Data from 15,000 players, so not like the whole player base, but that's a lot of players still. You can see here what win rate and what other stats are being achieved with each setup. Don't take these informations as solid rock. Just take it as a guide for you. If you're trying to get win 8 and you're trying to like really just copy the best stuff, you can just get inspired from here as well. But I would recommend you to first experiment yourself and then see, hey, my setup is not feeling that good. Then you could go here and see, hey, this is not performing too well. For example, win rate of this main configuration I mentioned is 51%. Again, we don't know who's playing this. Maybe the worst player right now has this and he's spamming it. So maybe this one is being played by the best player in World of Tanks. So don't take them as solid rock, as I said. Just use them as inspiration. It's very, 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 very good tool feature to use. I hope this example helped you have a few ideas about what we just did, but we will take another tank and go fast through the same ideas and show you that it will match more or less the setups that are being used. So I don't have the Centurion, right? We go on the Centurion. Centurion AX tier 10 medium British tank. Let's go. Does this tank need help with the gun or no? How much does it need? Dispersion at 100 meters, 0.32. Aiming time 210. Gun depression -10. The very good -10. Reload is gonna be 8 seconds. Yes. Fuel range 410. Signal 750. Camo 12 and 9. Leo has like 14, 10 or something like that. Not the best if you wanna play as a spotter as well when there's no light tank. This would recommend also a view range boost, but we will go to that. Top speed and HP and armor is what we need to check. So we have top speed 55, reverse speed 20, armor and HP, hit points 1950, armor turret very decent. I checked all these stats and now I'm thinking what this thing could need. I'm also looking at the ammo. Since I'm a medium tank, there's a chance I can be a good sniper. So in this situation, ammo has 268 on APCR at range and hit 330 for a closer range, but it has decent also shell velocity, right? This tank can be really good at sniping. I would say this tank doesn't have the lowest reload, and I think a rammer could benefit this tank. So I would definitely go directly choose a rammer. I noticed that the top speed 55 is okay, but it's not the best speed I could think of, and I'm considering E50M Leopard 1, I think they're way over 55, over 60 as well. E50 has 60 per hour, Leopard 1 has 70 per hour, and CS can even be faster because of the turbo. So this tank cannot really compete in speed with its competitors, which means I will need the turbo. It's not the worst speed, however, so I'm thinking, does the turbo experimental, which also gives me some dispersion removal, help this tank? I think so, yes. But why? Because this is 0.32 at range and it's not the best. You want to snipe with these rounds. These rounds are really good. 1478 meters per second on APCR and 1173. This is better than Leopard 120 ammo. 173 meters faster plus shell velocity boost crew, even 10%. It becomes 12 something. Really good ammo, right? So I want to be accurate and remove dispersion. The circle is not huge though. So what I would think is the dispersion removal, as I said, but I also need the turbo for this. So could this be a situation where the turbo experimental helps? Yes, it can. Also, another thing you could do to do both, what would you do? You would get a turbo, yes, a rammer to reduce the reload, and a vertical stab. You can remove that penalty of moving and taking shots while turning and so on with the vertical stab. So very, very good item. This is another case where vertical stab could be necessary. I do see 1950 hit points, and I do see a strong enough turret. For example, this tank can also face heavy tanks in different situations. This tank in the back supporting and sniping weak spots and lower plates, this tank can smack, and you have a hit which can even pen tier 11s, no problem. If you add some HP to this and you make sure you don't get tracked a lot, you can fight the heavy tank. So hardening becomes a strong option for this tank. You could have hardening for the HP or even the experimental hardening, the one I mentioned earlier. So you could use this in the suit, which also increases the module. You will do that or this, all right? So when I say hardening, I mean one of those. You can go turbo or the experimental turbo, so 2 items experimental and a rammer, or turbo vertical stab rammer. These are the options I would go with. If instead you want to snipe more and you want to snipe more in DPM, you could go, instead of the turbo, you could go vents. So you would go rammer, vents, and vertical stab. The very fun part about all this is that you are versatile and you start to understand what you need and how do you play and why do you need certain equipment. If you want, you can also use 2 alternative builds, one for close range and series, which will definitely need hardening and obviously rammer. Now that we went through this, so we follow the same procedure. I went through myself. I did this without checking anything, and this is what I recommend you. You go through each tank you want to buy or you will buy, then you do it yourself. You try to do yourself your equipment, and then you do the next step. Now I am going to see on the index page the beautiful feature of equipment added by skill. Look what we have. The first main configuration of skill matches one of ours. Vents, improve hardening, rammer. This is a hybrid one and it works in the series, high DPM and more HP, so you can go brawl. Look at this. Look at this. A secondary he recommends is the 2 experimental I mentioned, hardening experimental, turbo experimental, and rammer, but don't give up rammer. From Daki, he recommends vertical stab, hardening, rammer. As a second one, turbo, rammer, dispersion, probably for more open map. Yeah, you can see it exactly matches what I described. Now we will do the same over here. This is the last step we do. We go to loadout analytics, and if we go sort by DPG, but it doesn't matter, you can go by usage. The highest DPG 2889 is used by 3% of these 17k. To have a bit of a conclusion about this video, guys, think about it as the more you will do, the more you will learn. What I recommend you in addition is to go create more setups for a tank that you think can work in multiple situations. You will need the equipment. Don't spend too much. Experiment with this yourself and go buy when there's discounts. Once you will get to a point where you tested so many tanks, it will become an instinct what you do. Obviously you do check videos if you have doubts or you're preparing to buy something, and it's always great to check these resources. There are more advanced tips that I could go through based on the equipment, what skills complement each other. Obviously, if you have quick aiming as a quick example, you can not think too much of aiming time for certain tanks on the equipment, because this would already boost you enough. I do not want to complicate this too much. I hope this guide proved the point and it helps you understand and encourages you to experiment yourself. You will see that at some point it even becomes fun. For me, this became a ceremony. Whenever I see a tank, the first thing I do, I go investigate myself, and I can decide for myself would be something that I like. And at some point, as bonus thing, after all this stuff you do, it saves you money, man. Why am I saying this? If tomorrow they add a tank that will feel like Centurion, you will know and understand why. Because you built it, you had the stats analyzed, you will be like, hey, wait, this kind of looks like the gun of that tank. I hope this helped you. I conclude the video. Don't forget to like the video, as it helps also me get this video known. And if it gets supported, I can also provide more content. Thank you guys. I'll see you with the next one.